And welcome tonight, another Shootin the Shizz with DK and the Schwag. And tonight we have somebody that you've worked with, Brett, on a few occasions, the talented makeup artist, the guru, Erik Porn. Welcome.
I wouldn't say guru, but you know.
Oh, come on.
You've worked in some amazing TV and film projects that we're excited
Thank you.
Yeah, So John and our folks that watch us every week, I've known Erik. Gosh, I don't know how long now. It's been.
When was it Crazies? That was the first time.
So probably 2000. The movie came out in 2010. So probably late 2009. Or probably 2009. We were working on it.
I think so. Yeah.
Was Chrome Skull before the Crazies?
No, Chrome Skull was 2010. I think. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I've known Erik for quite a while. I got to meet Erik through a mutual friend of ours, and where Erik worked, Robert Hall, Almost Human. And Robert was an amazing special effects guy and had amazing guys. He was very smart. Had guys that were very hungry, like Erik Porn right there, learning and doing stuff, and had a bunch of other great artists that were over there interning and then working. And Erik was running the shop for quite a while until he got his own deal. But yeah, a lot of good people came out of Almost Human, and guys that were working with Robert Hall. But let's talk about this, big man, because you grew up in Michigan.
Oh yeah.
Now I know as you really were into this stuff very early as a kid. I think a lot of makeup artists that me and John have talked to, the guys that are doing the special effects and love all the horror genre, these are guys that just grew up loving this stuff. And you very early on were messing around with cameras and ideas for movies. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was me and my friends mostly. I mean, I think it was when I was 12, my dad got a video camera. Like, it was an old VHS-C camera, and we just started making stuff with that. And of course, I don't have any of that footage anymore. Like the little bit of it that's salvaged, I mean, it all demagnetized and stuff like that. You know, it's like old crappy VHS-C footage from the late 80s, early 90s. That stuff was, I wish I still had it. But yeah, we would mess around with the cameras. We were watching all the old full moon movies. So then you'd watch like the video zones after the full moon feature. And, you would kind of have like a little film school. So we were just kind of copying all the stuff we saw that they were doing on those.
Yeah. So you basically are a self-taught guy. I know you got into working with some of the guys in some other, makeup houses like Robert's Place, but you were experimenting as a kid on all this stuff.
Experimenting as a kid with the stuff, but then there was like Tom Savini's book I picked up, The Grand Illusions. I found that at age 12 or 13 at the local costume shop. Picked that up, started sort of trying to make my own fake teeth, that kind of stuff. But then after I graduated from high school, I went out to Pittsburgh and went to the Art Institute there for like a year and a half. I actually didn't graduate from there, but went there and started learning some stuff there, and got the basics, met some really cool people.
Yeah, I never knew about that. The art, it sounds so official. The Art Institute of Pittsburgh. Now, did you pick that because there anything that had to do with Romero and zombies and Pittsburgh, or that just was a very good college to go to?
Well, what happened was they came to my high school. They came into the art room, and then one of the they send out like the little headhunter guys that would come and kind of entice kids to go to the school. He had some like rubber slipcast puppets that they had built. And they said, you want to learn how to do this and this and this, and was talking about the makeup effects program. And so like that hooked me right there. And then I was like, wait, Pittsburgh, that's where Savini is, So and the funny thing is he actually came to the school a couple times. We used to bump into him all the time in Pittsburgh. So that was kind of cool, get to meet kind of an idol of mine since I was a kid.
Yeah, I had a lot of guys. I did have some questions about that when you were growing up. What were some of the movies that really got, the scary wise, that got you really going and that loving the genre?
I don't know if he froze.
He did freeze.
He froze. Yeah,
he did freeze. Otherwise, he's a very.
You can screenshot that. He can make it his profile picture on.
Oh,
you're losing Erik.
You're coming in and out.
Oh,
there. There you are. Sorry, you're back, or you're frozen again.
Gotta love the internet. It just loves to crash. I'm surprised I'm able to stream while I'm at the hotel. Here he comes. He's got the circle.
The circle's coming.
Spinning around. They got him spinning around in a circle.
Well,
Yeah, why he's not here? I mean, you guys worked on Chrome.
Let's try something else. Let's try the 5G. Are we back?
Yeah,
man, you're back and you even look better. How'd that happen?
Okay.
5G.
All right. I switched off the Wi-Fi. Apparently the Wi-Fi is not doing so well.
So some of the guys that when you were growing up that you looked up to as far as the makeup guys, who would that have been, and what kind of movies were you into that got you going?
You know, like when I was a kid, it wasn't as much the horror stuff. I mean, I liked, Michael Jackson's Thriller was like a big thing when I was really young. I remember it came out, I think, 81, 82. I would have been like 5 years old, I think, at that point. And I saw it, and then MTV did like the whole behind the scenes making of. So it was really cool seeing, what do you call it? Like just the whole behind the scenes thing, watching Michael Jackson get his face cast, watching them glue the prosthetics, the bladders, all that stuff. That fascinated the hell out of me. And then there was another thing, like Star Wars came out, and there was this thing called from Star Wars to Jedi, and then it showed you like the puppet shop and all the creatures they were making for Star Wars. And then I was watching, I was like, these people are getting paid to go do that for a living? I was like, my dad's selling refrigeration equipment. That's not even nearly as cool as what these guys are doing. I want to go do that stuff.
Oh, you could have been in the refrigerator repair business. What are you doing?
Yeah, he was selling refrigeration to I think party stores and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was a good, respectable job, and
Sure.
It paid the bills and everything. But I don't think my father was really crazy about the job.
So that got you. I mean, Universal Monsters, was that also a thing for you? I mean, I'm old. I'm 10 years older than you because you graduated in '96. I would have graduated high school in '86. So my first stuff that I started watching obviously was the Universal, the Frankensteins, the Wolfman, and I slowly, as I got into the Romero Night of the Living Dead, some of these goofy children shouldn't play with dead things, and once I saw Night of the Living Dead, even today, if you watch Romero's Night of the Living Dead, 1967, for God's sakes, is still a scary movie.
Yeah. No, I watched that. I watched the original Dracula, Frankenstein, all that stuff. And then, Jason and Freddy were huge when I was a kid. So it was always go over to your friend's house and we were watching like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. And eventually I got more into the horror stuff because I'm like, well, there's a lot more of this cool creature stuff in all the horror movies. And then when I started practicing some of the effects stuff was probably, horror had kind of taken a dive like in 1989, 90 or whatever. It was like horror started to sort of become out of favor, out of trend. Like there were so many horror movies in the 80s that they just started kind of pulling it back, and then it became direct to video for a lot of them. So I was learning a lot of stuff or growing on a lot of the direct to video, like early 90s stuff, like the Full Moon stuff like that.
Yeah, because you after college, you went back to Michigan, had a production company. We're working, of course, like every guy's dream, like mine, believe it or not. I mean, I wanted to work at our local video store so much just so I could get all the cool VHS stuff, because you still had VHS when you were working that job at the family video store.
Yeah. And I remember the manager I had there, the DVDs started coming out. And this tells you about the time when I started working there. The DVDs were coming out, and I said, "Are we going to start carrying those?" He goes, "No, that's a fad. That'll go away real quick."
It's like Betamax. It's not gonna last.
It's not gonna take off. He's like, "That's a fad." And then I think it was like 6 months later, like all the VHS movies. It felt like 6 months later, all the VHS movies were kind of being pushed into one part of the store, and then all the DVDs were taking over.
Right? You and I are pretty close in the same age. We grew up in that special time, but like you said, come 88, 89-ish, it started getting where the kids were into it. Then they made it too cartoony. So the excitement as us kids, even though I think they're more loved now, say like Bride of Chucky or something, back when we were kids and that started coming, it's like, well, we're going more comedy and not horror slasher. And it definitely changed in that time. And I miss it, but I experiencing it we're about the same age. We were going into high school and stuff, so we understood at that time. But yeah, we lived through the 80s, and that was a very special moment in history.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it was like everything was rubber back then.
Yeah, rubber, practical effects, but it was so effective and it was so scary on the old gritty TVs. And there was just something about watching it on an old movie screen or an old TV and just seeing the grittiness of it, that it brought it to life. It brought the scary to it. I don't know. It was just a special time. And that's why I personally love horror so much. So hearing about your journey in our age, I graduated 94, you graduated 96. So we experienced a lot of the same things in this journey, and it's really cool what you're doing now. I mean, like Teen Wolf, you worked on the show Teen Wolf. I know that had to be a big part of your childhood. So to be able to do the TV show and the movie and work on that had to be really a thrill.
I mean, that was fun. When I heard they were doing Teen Wolf, I was still working at Almost Human, and I think they had been approached about it, but then other people had ended up doing it. You know, really great people. I think K&B was involved with it. I think like Barney Berman was involved. Steve Prouty. There were a bunch of really great makeup artists that were on the show for the first season, and then I think Almost Human got it for the second season. That's when I got brought on, and I remember it was like, this is not really. It had nothing to do with the movie, the Michael J. Fox movie, which is what I grew up on. It was kind of like a beginner drug to horror stuff, because it was like a funny Wolfman movie. Yeah, but then this one was serious.
Yeah, well, the TV series was great. You got to, I'm trying to remember how many episodes. 88 episodes, I think, right? You worked a ton.
I think I was there for 88, 87 or 88 of the episodes, I think.
I mean, you can do Wolfman makeup in your sleep.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I want to go back a little bit. When you decided, like in 2005, was it scary? Or did you do everything you could out there in Michigan and said, I'm going to make that jump? Because I mean, a lot of people come to LA, right? I mean, that's where the business is. And then how did you decide to make that jump? And were you scared when you were leaving Michigan to come to LA?
Oh, I was horrified. I was terrified, man. My best friend was in LA. He had moved out to LA a year before. He was working on a Jim Carrey movie. He said, I told the makeup artist guy about you. You should come out and visit, and then bring your portfolio. He wants to see your work. I said, well, that's cool. So I flew out, and then he took me over to Sony. We went on to the back lot, went into the trailer, and that makeup artist's name was Bill Corso. And then Bill just had me kind of help wrap out his trailer with him. Went over my portfolio. He was really just perfectly honest with all my stuff. He was really kind, very nice about it. And I think it was like a month or two later, he ended up winning the Oscar for Lemony Snicket. And so he was kind of the first person I knew. But when I came out to LA, I actually didn't call him because I didn't want to try to be like, hey, I was that kid, that did this. Like, can you, would you give me a job? I ended up calling around to the shops. And I think I called Almost Human, sent my resume over there, and I got a call back, and I believe it was Debbie, the office manager at the time, said, Rob would like you to come in for an interview. He thinks your last name is funny. And I said, okay. And so I went in. I remember, she said the only reason he picked up my resume off the stack is because he saw the last name. And so I went in, and he, we went through the whole rigmarole. He met with me. He said, so I'll hire you if I can call you Porn. I said, you can call me asshole if you're paying my rent. And then
I can see that. I could see that. And then listen, 8 years. I mean, you really got your feet wet and really dug in. And I mean, basically you were helping run that shop in the ending when, a lot of the time when Rob and the other guys would be on the road working on a film, there's Erik Porn running that whole friggin' damn shop. But you got to work on some big major movies and TV shows from that shop.
It was fun. Yeah.
And you and I,
crazies.
That's right. And so I remember, it's so funny when I booked that show. I remember this is the silliest thing, because I went in for that audition and I was supposed to be some truck driver, and I totally forgot that from Romero's Crazies that they weren't zombies. And here I am acting like some zombie in this thing. And then when I walked out of the audition, John Papsadero, big casting director, and I'm like, what the hell did I just do? I just screwed that friggin' thing up, because mean, I'm, thinking back to Romero's movie as a little too late as I'm walking out of the audition, but lucky enough, got it. I remember then I saw that Rob Hall was doing it, and I called him up. I said, "Hey, buddy," because I had worked on Buffy and Angel with him before, which were my first two acting gigs in sci-fi or horror. And Angel was my first gig ever getting a live cast and doing stuff, which is horrifying. Some people, I think you've done a live cast on me, Erik, if I'm not, or helped to apply a live cast to me before.
I think we did for the Crazies, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did. So if folks never know what getting a live cast is, I think it's all fun and dandy. And most people are cool with it. But when they're putting stuff all over your face and your ears and your eyes, and you're just breathing through two little things, and I'm always panicking that someone's going to pull those things in, or I'm not going to be able to get this thing off if I needed to. But what a great movie. The Crazies was great. And that was the first time, and we can see the picture of you putting that application on. We had a big neck application. There it is right there. Then we had
that was one of the test makeups at the shop, wasn't it?
If that's either at the shop or that is when you did. Yeah, that is at the shop.
Or wait, that might be from Monster Palooza, actually.
Monster Palooza, or it's behind the scenes for the DVD, which it might be behind the scenes for the DVD because they have a behind the scenes shop. But Erik is one of the most gentle guy to work with. I know that's the right word to say when you're applying makeup on. But, we had the big neck piece. Then we had like 15, 20 individual things. So it would be a good couple hours to get in that makeup and then an hour to take off. So,
oh, yeah.
I can't imagine, someone like, I'm trying to think, is it Parker Posey? Who was the lead of Teen Wolf? Yeah.
Oh, Tyler Posey.
Tyler Posey. I know you were, for God's sakes, 88 episodes or however many episodes he did every day, and you guys applying that makeup 5 days a week.
Well, on that one, he only wolfed out every so often, and then later in the series, you would notice he would start just, all of a sudden he was just claws and fangs and glowing eyes. So I think it was, with any of those shows, they start losing a little bit of budget the further they go out into the series. So they're like, okay, let's not pay for all these prosthetics and whatnot. But I think the last season of Teen Wolf, we only put him in the wolf makeup maybe once in the last 10 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. I didn't see the last season.
Was that a budget thing, or where they knew the show was probably going to end, or was it, fit the story? But that editing transition. Which would you say it was? A little bit of both, or?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think they knew it was going to end, but also I knew that the budgets were shrinking a bit because they started shooting a lot of episodes in places where we had the sets already built. So it was like the last episode, you would see like the hospital a lot, the school a lot, the sheriff's station a lot. And then like the entire episode would kind of happen in those places because it didn't cost them any money to go out on location to film. So it was like when we worked on that Terminator TV series for Fox, I remember.
I love the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I got to say that I saw you were on that. I love that show. It just ended way too soon.
That was fun. The third season was going to be really cool too. It was all going to be Future Wars, and they did, they canceled it. But
so good.
But on that show, there was like they would go and spend like a massive amount of money on like one episode. Then the next episode would be the Connors in their living room or kitchen talking about Skynet making sandwiches or something. So we had a little bit of that happen on Teen Wolf too.
And they just kept switching around the time slots and stuff. But I mean, I was into it. I'm a big Terminator fan as it is, the series. And I think that aside from part 2, that's the one movie or this TV series in the series that I really enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed that show. And I think it's on some streaming services now again. So
I just watched a couple episodes on Hulu the other day.
Yeah, I knew I saw it. Yeah, I'm going to rewatch it again because I did. I love this series. And it just, it was one of those shows where I think they just didn't properly promote it. And they kept switching things around for the fans. It wasn't that the fans, the people I knew that we watched the show, we thought it was great. I thought the special effects were great. And for a TV show, the story was really good. The cast was phenomenal. Brian Austin Green was in it. It was one of my favorites. And you had to be real young when you worked on that because that was out in Was it the early 2000s?
I was probably in my 30s, I think, because when I moved to LA, I was 27.
You got, I remember when you got in the union, for God's sakes. I remember it was a big, I mean, I was very excited for you because I know you've been working at this a long time. And then for you to get into the makeup, I don't even know what your local is. What is your local?
Local 706.
11. I mean, it was a big deal. I was so excited for you because I've known you for a long time. I was like, damn, man, Erik, he's in the union now, for God's sakes. So I was so excited for you. And right around that time too, you and Chris Gallaher decided to open up your own shop, that's a tough thing to do as it is anyways in this business to do. Now you were already helping folks run theirs, and now you guys are going to do your own. Talk a little bit about that adventure.
I mean, it's a kind of a rough transitionary period. It was one of those things where there was kind of a, changing of the guard type of thing. And I know that Almost Human didn't really want to do the show anymore. I remember, Rob telling Chris and I, like, I don't think they've got the budget to afford a shop like ours. You guys could take it if you want to. And then, there was a little bit of a weird kind of falling out, like with me and Rob when it happened. I don't usually get into it or anything.
Yeah.
But Chris and I had been working on the show, and we, ended up just like, well, we need to sort of make a shop.
What an amazing artist. I don't know if folks, I always used to say Chris Gallaher, and I'm like, his last name is not Gallaher. Gallaher, what an amazing artist. A guy that's worked on everything as well over the last 20 or 25 years. Just an amazing artist. And for you guys to team up, that was a pretty cool deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah. It was fun. And I just remember he didn't want to do the show anymore. They wanted us to stay on. And we got an email from them basically saying, they don't want to do the show anymore. So you guys willing to stay? And of course, there's a bit of weirdness, so it kind of turned into a thing. And sadly, I hadn't talked to Rob in like 8 years, I think, before I found out about what happened to him. So there's regrets there. There's obviously regrets because he was like a big brother to me. I love that guy, and it was sad to hear that he passed so unexpectedly and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was great that Chris and I were able to keep kind of working and whatnot. We never wanted any kind of weirdness to happen, but how things go in the entertainment industry is sometimes stuff happens 100%. And then you don't want anything bad to happen, but sometimes it just happens that way.
Yeah, so, but it was a very good opportunity for you two guys anyways to do your own shop and instead of doing freelance stuff. Yeah. But not only are you I mean, gosh, for God's sakes, you and I also got to work with Don Coscarelli, for God's sakes.
We did.
I mean, a hero of mine. I know you were obviously a big fan of Don Coscarelli's. I remember I got a phone call from Rob Holly. He says, hey, can you work tomorrow on a movie? And I'm like, well, sure. What are we doing? He says, you're going to be working with Don Coscarelli. And I was like, my heart stopped. I'm like, come on, don't mess with me, buddy. But I guess Don they needed something for the beginning of John Dies at the End. He had an idea. They were missing something. He figured they need some big redneck Nazi in the beginning. And I guess he saw the cover of Fangoria. This is how the story was told to me. And he goes, I need something like that. And I think the guy's named Brad Baru, who was a producer on that.
I still talk to Brad, yeah.
Brad's a great guy.
He is.
And I met Brad because Brad used to do, I don't know if he's still doing it, he would do behind the scenes stuff, John, for movies. Like he'd come down where we were filming The Crazies, and I believe he was filming, or some people from his office were filming. And then when the DVDs came out, he would have all this great behind the scenes footage. So Brad said, not only can we do that makeup, but we can also get the guy. So the guy that's on that cover. So that was my story. I got to meet Don Coscarelli, good friends with him, and Erik Porn and myself.
It's a great cover too. It's such a great cover. Amazing work, Erik. And
I remember on that I did, because it was they had Bob Kurtzman do the whole film, and then they had to do some reshoot stuff in LA, like they were adding some stuff to the movie or whatever. And it was kind of cool because it was like we heard Bob Kurtzman was involved, so it was almost like you had multiple makeup effects shops working on the same movie. And it was like they used to do back in the 80s and 90s and stuff, which I always thought was cool. Is like they would kind of divvy out the effects work. And then what they did with you, I guess that was kind of an addition that they came up with, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just an add-on that Don Coscarelli thought they needed something in the beginning of the movie. Same thing when I did a movie Tekken, and they had finished the movie, and it didn't, for some reason they thought we need a bar owner. So then, 5 months after the movie's done, I'm shooting another little thing. It happens a lot in movies and TV. They may run something and test it, and Erik knows this. They'll test a movie and then say it's not working. There's stuff missing. John, they'll go back and reshoot stuff. It doesn't matter how long. I know on World War Z they had problems. It tested very terrible, and they had to do a lot of reshoots with that Brad Pitt would pay out of his own pocket because they're like, we got no more money for this. He's like, well, we're going to get the movie done. So, but COVID hits. Everything is slow. You dissolve the shop. But
more Chris did because he was handling the finance part of it. So he was like, look, we're spending thousands of dollars a month just keeping this place open. There's no movies filming. There's no work right now.
Yeah. Well, it makes perfect sense. It's John is great. Erik's been such a good friend of mine, and my wife, of course. He's always very.
Everybody's friends with your wife. Everybody loves your wife.
Erik he could hate me, but as long as he's nice to the wife, I'd be tickled pink. But my wife calls Erik and goes, Erik, I need a really good Halloween costume. And Erik, out of the goodness of his heart, made her from the raincoat missing an arm.
Oh, I remember that. I forgot about that.
And this is the greatest thing. So she was working at Cast and Crew, which is a payroll company. Erik, I'm sure, has got paid through Cast and Crew before.
Oh, yeah.
And she won first place in the costume contest.
Did she get
money? Now, if she wants some money, you might have to split it with Erik.
Where's my share of that?
I don't know if any money was made. I think they just got.
He cannot confirm or deny.
I don't even remember what she won, but it was very cool. And listen. There's a lot of people that I got to work with a lot of people. Erik is one of the special guys. But COVID, you hit the ground running, and this is after COVID was done. But you hit the ground running again because you were working right away. I mean, you started to work on, where is it here? Oh yeah, Fear of the Walking Dead. Because I remember you're like, I would follow you on Facebook, and you're like, because you were living up in Santa Clarita at the time, I believe.
Yeah.
Where I am back living now, and you were off of Newhall, and I remember you were never there because you were in Texas, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to come back for a couple of days, and then I got to go right back to Texas. So how did the Fear the Walking Dead gig come about?
It was we were doing the COVID thing, like it was all in the thick of it. And I got a call from, one of the people at K&B, and they just said, we're crewing up. We need to crew up for the show. We need someone that can be out there for a while. And after not working for like 6 or 7 months, you kind of go, yeah, I'll take it. And then when I was out there, it was, you work for like Greg Nicotero, basically, and Kerry Jones, all those guys. They're all really awesome guys, really great guys. I love working for them. But when you're out there, they were shooting like the end of season 6. They hadn't finished season 6. And then, so we kept hearing these rumors like, oh, they're going to jump right into season 7. Like they're going to take a week off and then jump into season 7 because season 6 was so far behind. We got to get going with this. So literally shot, I think, half of season 6 and then went and shot the entirety of season 7. And it was a great team that was out there with us. I was just, kind of a hired gun on that one. It's nice kind of being a hired gun sometimes because I'll go work for K&B and then I'll get a call from like Autonomous, Jason Collins, all those guys. I'll go work for them on something. Or, I got a call from Chris Nelson, went out and helped him on Halloween Ends last year, which was an opportunity where I'm like, I'm not going to turn that down.
Yeah, well, how can you turn that down? I mean, Chris Nelson is wonderful as it is, and I got to act with Chris Nelson in Chrome Skull, which was pretty cool. And I didn't, at the time. Go ahead.
Oh, we got to kill him in Chrome Skull, so we're putting the makeup on, and I'm nervous because I knew Chris, but it was just like he's such an amazing makeup artist. I was like, oh, if I fuck this up, I'll never get a call from him, But no, that was quite a fun thing to get that call because I was always a huge Halloween fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's like John, it's just like being an actor, right? I've got to play Leatherface. I've gotten to play some infected. I've got an opportunity to, playing some pretty cool stuff. So I imagine it's the same thing, man. I mean, God, if someone said tomorrow, "Hey, Brett, we want you to be a zombie in another movie," I'm going to be tickled. Or even if it's, Romero or Stephen King script or something, to me, it brings me back to when I was
stories and stuff. I mean, Walking Dead was so hot for a long time, and they got the Negan show now. And you worked on Fear the Walking Dead and World Beyond, I believe. I
did like a week on World Beyond, maybe, and then I just did what was it? I did some stuff on the new spinoff, the one with the Rick Grimes spinoff. I was out in New Jersey for a bit on that, working for K&B. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for Rick's return. I'm hoping some sort of series with him and Michonne. We'll see what happens. But we got a great question here from the Dolls of Horror. She's the voice of Days of the Dead Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I was on her show yesterday. It hasn't been released yet. We were speaking about a movie called The Midnighters. And we did talk about this movie yesterday, Tales of Halloween. And for some reason, we're talking about anthology films. And it's something I really enjoy is anthology films. And she has a question for you. I would love to hear about working on Tales of Halloween and wonder which segment Erik worked on. So
I worked on the segment for Mike Mendez called, what was it? Friday the 31st. And I did, mostly it was like the main girl. I did some of her makeup and a couple gags on that. Like, I think we chopped the arm off of one of, what was it? Nick Prinsby was playing like this mutant guy, kind of a Jason character. We chopped his arm off and did a few things. Like, that movie had pretty much like, I felt like almost all the makeup effects guys were working on it at some point because all the directors were calling in favors from everybody. So it was like you would go out and just kind of do like a little something here or there. But the woman that was in the Friday the 31st segment, who's actually Jennifer Van Dien, she's married to Casper Van Dien now. We had to kind of make her. Mike Mendez said, "I want her to look like Ash from Evil Dead 2." So we did the whole, like the big circles around the eyes, the big, huge, kind of bony, kind of like masky looking. I don't know what I'm trying to say right now. Like the little kind of bandit mask thing. We did that with her, and then they glowed her eyes. Just kind of stuff like that. Did some gore gags, like he gets his arm cut off. Spraying blood. We actually sprayed blood all over the set, and it was a place that they were renting, so blood got all over the ceiling. The guy that owned the place got kind of pissed off about it, but I was like, well, they kept asking me to blow it up more.
It had to be fun at the time, though.
Oh, it was a blast at the time. I just remember getting chewed out. Like the producers, like, we got blood all over everything. I was like, well, they asked for more blood, so I just kept pumping.
It's a horror movie, for God's sakes. Good one. Mike Mendez, a really good guy, good director, big ass spider, and I think he just did just had a movie come out with
Satanic Hispanics.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Which I have not seen yet, but I was on a plane with Vote for Pedro, who's in the movie.
Is it Ephraim Ramirez? Was that his name?
Yeah. So Ephraim's a great guy. I was talking about the movie, and Mike's a great guy. He's come a long way in this business. Worked as one of those guys as well. We got to have him on sometime. Really good director and writer, and he's a guy that loves the business so much that he loves that genre that he made it his livelihood, which is not the easiest thing to do in the world. But zombies. So a couple years on Fear the Walking Dead. Do you like doing the zombies? Because you've worked on some series and doing shows where it's a lot of makeup and it's repetitious. Is there one makeup that's easier than the other you don't mind doing, or is it just you get into that? How do you go out there? Because some people will work on a movie for a couple of months and then they get time off. When you're doing a series and then also doing movies, and like I said, I remember you were in Texas all the time and we're never home. Does it get old? You get tired and you're at the hotel room every night and then you got to get up early?
It can, but the thing is it depends who you're there with. Because if you're there with, like, I was in Texas with some really great people. We had like John Wrightson and Danny Wagner. Had Lee Grimes, who Lee's been doing this stuff forever. worked on all kinds of great movies. Lee was a guy from Florida, so I remember it was funny. He would tell me stories about, he was like the first makeup artist that was there for Nickelodeon when Nickelodeon Studios were big. So he was telling me like all these Double Dare stuff, things like that. It was pretty cool, and we had Snowmageddon when we were in Austin, which was the craziest shit I've ever seen.
Oh, that's right. You guys got the whole town shut down.
We got snowed into a hotel for a week and a half. No water. We were going out. We were getting buckets full of snow and having to melt it on the stove. We actually had electricity. A lot of people in Austin didn't have electricity, but the hotel had, I think, backup generators. It had something like that, but we kept the electricity going. But we were more fortunate than some people. But you had to boil like snow and then pour it on yourself to take showers with it. It was insane.
Now, you've done all this stuff. You've worked on every TV show, all big movies. Let's talk about real quick. You got to but you got to work on Vice with. The makeup on Vice won an Academy Award.
It did. Greg Cannom won the Oscar that year for it. I think it was Greg Cannom, and then I'm having one of those moments, those brain moments of everyone, like Patricia, the hair lady, was on it. Kate Biscoe, she was on it. I think that's the three that were on it. It was pretty crazy. There were so many talented people on that set too, like all the makeup artists. Like I'm walking around, like I look up to all of these guys.
Is it crazy that you're sitting there and you're watching and the guy, I don't know the guy, Greg, I believe you're talking about. I don't know him. I know of
Greg
him.
Cannom.
Yeah, and I've heard of him, obviously. But for God's sakes, to win an Academy Award and say that you had a little part of that. I mean, I know you don't say that, but I will say it because I like to say my friend of mine, had a part in a hand in winning an Academy Award. So, I mean, I got
to help hold glue and apply a little bit here and there. Yeah, Chris Gallaher had quite a huge part in that too. Chris was on set with Christian every day, just like it's an exhausting process. Like 16 hours a day, just watching on a show like that. It's like he's watching every edge, just super focused on it, making sure that nothing's falling apart and whatnot. Because when you start getting to hour 14, your pieces are starting to come apart a little bit. Your edges start to show. So it's like you got to be maintaining all that stuff. So I mean, there were three of us that were on set with him. Chris Gallaher was there, Kenny Myers, myself, and then you had like future Oscar winner Adrian Moreau was working over on Steve Carell's makeup. And you had Jamie Kellman, Kate Biscoe, all these people were just amazing. So many fun makeup artists, so many amazing talents in that one film. I learned so much because I came from more of a TV background, a horror background. So it was great that got to help apply some really realistic stuff. And it's also, it's a little stressful too because it's got to look amazing in 4K all day long.
Now, there's two movies you've done. Now, if I don't ask you about it, I'm going to regret it. Pineapple Express and Superbad you worked on. Now, that had to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was we had done at Almost Human. We had done 4 projects, I think, with Seth Rogen. And when those came about, I think we started working. We worked on what was it? It was called Fanboys.
Yeah. And
that was when he showed up. It was just like, oh, the guy from 40-Year-Old Virgin, the guy that works with him, because he wasn't like Seth Rogen at the time. None of those guys were really huge at that point. And then like we did Superbad. We just did a gag on Superbad where they slashed the kid's throat. Then we did Pineapple, and Pineapple was only supposed to be like 2 or 3 little gags, and it ended up being like fake bodies and like 20 different things that we did. So that movie just kept ballooning and ballooning and ballooning. And that was directed by, David Gordon Green. I think that was his big feature debut, like his big studio feature.
Yeah, I had to ask you about those 2 films. And, it had to be an experience, like you said, working with Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill and Michael Cera, who I'm a big fan of from Arrested Development and stuff. So that's really cool you worked on that. So you've worked on so many different projects, too, from horror. Yeah, it's so many great TV series and movies. it's unbelievable what you've worked in. So congratulations on that. I mean,
Thank you.
Almost Human, Teen Wolf, you name
I
it.
mean,
You got a list.
The other thing that I didn't even know that you know, I had a little part in Big Stan, and I was looking over your credits today, and that you have a credit on Big Stan with Schneider.
Yeah, we did. What was it? We did the thing where he's hanging. They did the thing where he's hanging from his nipples.
Yes.
Well,
he does that normally.
Yeah.
He's stretching out.
Yeah, he used to come to Jones, a restaurant bar on Santa Monica and Formosa. I used to be the doorman at, and he would come sometimes all the time. And he's like, and I was still, I wasn't making a tremendous living being an actor, so I would still be working the door at times. And I remember him coming in all the time. He's like, "Oh, we'll get you on something one of these days. We'll get you on something one of these days." And then he's like, "Don't you bounce at a bar?" And I'm like, "I do, but I'm here with you now." And we filmed at a woman's prison. Big Stan was filmed at a woman's prison in it's where the Diaz brothers are from, up north, Stockton, California. And
was that where he got heat stroke and he had to direct with an IV in his arm or something?
I believe that is the story. I mean, I wasn't there, but it was super hot. I wasn't there when he had the IV, but yeah. But more importantly, as of late,
what a trooper to go through that, like pass out, like the heat gets to you, and then it's like, no, just put an IV in my arm. I got this.
He was so funny. First of all, we had so many to watch him work. I mean, he's a very creative, fast-minded guy with his comedy. A lot of guys like him, the Improv, the Robin Williams. Schneider's got the same thing. He's very quick, and he was so funny in that movie. It's a funny movie that he's kicking ass on everybody, but there were so many dangerous guys on that set, man. There was some real, there were some killers on that set, and then we had some of the people that would come in and fill in as the prisoners from Stockton that were, these guys. I'm like, gosh, Randy Couture was on the set. Some of these guys, I was like, Randy, protect me. Just keep an eye on me, buddy, in case something happens. But you're still working, man. You're still out there. You're still grinding. You're still hustling. Malibu Horror Story.
Oh my God, that was.
I mean, it's just been getting a lot of press lately. I've been seeing it a lot in the last month or so. I keep seeing ads and stuff about Malibu Horror Story.
We shot that in 2009, maybe 2009 or 10, I think. Maybe it was 2011. It was sometime back then, and it just always stayed on the IMDb. And I was like, that movie's never. Like, nothing's happened with that movie. I don't know. And people said that they saw it. They said they liked it. I'm like, where did you see it? They're like, oh, at a festival. But then it just never got released because it was a little $400,000 found footage movie. And then I saw Mike Elizaldi's daughter, Eden, from Spectral Motion had posted some images of like a demon Native American kind of makeup that she had done. And I'm like, oh, that looks a little bit like the thing that we did for Malibu Horror. And then it said at the bottom, image from Malibu Horror. I'm like, oh, so they must have went back, reshot the movie and had, like Spectral Motion do the effects. Well, no, I mean, did you see it?
I have not seen it.
They managed to take the old found footage movie that we did and incorporate it into like a new, like kind of wraparound segment. So there's still a lot of found footage stuff in there that we shot. I was surprised how much of the stuff that we shot that made it into the movie. And then they shot like this whole new, brand new thing with a whole new cast and then all new effects and stuff, which, I mean, I went to go see it in the theater. I was like, this turned out really cool. I can see why people were having a good time with it.
It turned out, from what I understand, much better than Grizzly 2.
Yes.
Where they took footage from 25 years ago or 30 years ago and somehow pieced it together because you have George Clooney, Jennifer Aniston, and Charlie Sheen in it. So they figured, and they also had Academy Award winner from Nurse Ratched in there. So they somehow put this thing together and released it because you have all these famous people in it that probably didn't want it released. But so besides Malibu Horror Story getting some press lately, talk a little bit about I mean, you went back to the Wolf Pack, a Teen Wolf TV series. Is that what it is?
It's not. It's funny. It's sort of, everyone thinks it's a spinoff, but it has nothing to do with Teen Wolf. It's based on a series of books written by a guy named Ido von Balkum, I think is the last name. and he wrote this series. I had actually never heard of the series until the show picked up, and then um, it's like a completely sort of different thing. The wolves are different. They're not the same kind of werewolves that we had on Teen Wolf. They're more of howling style wolves. Like we actually
nice.
didn't get to build any big wolves, which we were pretty bummed about. They did the werewolves digital, but it was a lot of like gore and claws, teeth, stuff like that. We wanted to build a big wolf, but they already had it locked in for doing it with CG. And I think they might push a little more if they do another season. I don't know. They might hopefully they go wolfier or whatever. But from what I gathered, it was supposed to be like season 1 was kind of a slow burn, and they were gonna make more seasons, and it was gonna get more and more crazy as it went on. So I don't think they've had a green light yet or whatever. But fingers crossed for maybe that happening.
Yes, because you have a guy that lives close by that'll fly wherever to be a guinea pig.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about real quick. Let's just go. Some of your favorite directors that you've gotten to work with.
Well, Don obviously was great.
You've done
Adam
2
McKay
movies with
from,
Don. You did another movie with Don Coscarelli.
We did this movie called Dead Night where he produced it, and Brad Baru directed it.
Brad Baru directed it.
Yeah, we were up in Tahoe, and it was myself and Tim Jarvis were the makeup effects team on set for that. And I just remember, like at lunchtime, Don would tell us stories from the Phantasm movie. So we would all just kind of gather around. Like you'd see the rest of the crew off in one corner. It was me and Tim and some of the other people that were all into it. We were like sitting there listening to Don's stories because Don's like the nicest guy ever.
Him and his wife, people don't understand that, man. Him and his wife are the sweetest people in the world. And his daughter has a diabetic cookbook for desserts.
I didn't know that.
I'm in heaven. I'm like ready to like a cupcake, diabetic cupcake thing. And I remember they said, my daughter's got, and I'm like, well, I better go order that thing. Nicest guy in the world, John. If you ever saw Don Coscarelli in the street or at a festival, he is the nicest guy in the world. Here's a good story. I'm at Monsterpalooza and Burbank, and he's talking to some suits, guys in suits, and he sees me walking through the crowd, and he goes, "Excuse me, boys, I got to talk to one of my actors." And I was like, "Oh my God, Don, you don't have to."
That's who he is.
No. How are you? What's going on? I'm like, "Holy crap! You don't go back to the suit guys." I wish he would direct more stuff.
He sent me the day we did your makeup. I remember I got a personal email from him that night, and I've never had that happen before. A personal email saying it was such a pleasure working with it. Like he went out and he found my email address and then emailed me. It was like such a great time working with you. Thank you so much. It was just like the nicest thing. I'd never actually had that happen before, so that was one of those things where I was like, oh God, you just don't get that very often.
No, I can't imagine it. But okay, so Don Coscarelli, who else do you love working with?
The 2 brothers that shot The Wretched were quite fun. They were a blast. They were also from Michigan, so we got along really well, and we shot in Michigan, so it was kind of awesome. We were all there, and our families were all there, showing up for the filming of this movie, which was it was a lower budget film, but we had a blast working on it because it's like your family can come to the set and watch you work. That was amazing.
Yeah, The Wretched it got really good reviews, good movie. What is next for Erik Porn? I mean, I think you want to direct. Do you not? I think you have
a feature script I'm working on right now, and it's being pitched to a couple people. And fingers crossed, something's going to happen with it. So it's a creature thing, and I'm hopefully something will happen with that. I would like to sort of move into that direction. I've got a lot of stories I would like to tell. And I think it would be fun to tell and sort of do the makeup effects as well. Head that up. But I've got enough friends who are in makeup effects. I could be like, hey, man, you want to come out and help me with this or whatever? And probably have some really spectacular effect sequences.
Oh my God. Yeah. And and that's another thing I want to get into. Let's throw out some of the names of the guys that you work close with that maybe some folks don't know, that don't get the credit, but should be getting some credit.
Well, I mean, there's Chris Gallaher, obviously, Kenny Myers, John Wrightson. When I work for the K&B guys, I mean, everybody kind of knows the K&B guys by now. But those guys are a lot of fun. Let's see, Danny Wagner, who's been doing this for years. He's kind of a blast to work with all the time.
Great last name.
Yes, exactly. Then the last show I was on, I worked with Gino Crognoli, who has been doing it since the 80s, and he kind of came up through like the Empire film, so he would tell me all these stories. Like he worked at John Buechler's back in the day.
Empire.
He would tell me all these rock star stories about how they would go and they would work at the shop all night, and they would just kind of, go out and party after, and they're partying with these like little bands. And he's like, yeah, we were partying at this place with this band, they were called Metallica, and nobody knew who they were at that point. just crazy stuff. I love listening to some of the guys who'd been in it since the 80s and like the 70s. Kenny Myers got in it in the 70s. He's fantastic. He worked on you, didn't he?
Kenny Myers, for God's sake, what a great guy, and a guy that I don't think gets enough credit. Like you said, he's been around for a long time. A wonderful guy, great artist, hands down.
Return of the Living Dead.
For God's sakes.
Yeah.
And I get to hang out, Erik, and sometimes I'll be hanging out with Tom Matthews and some of those folks. And Tom Matthews, for me, that's a great deal. Look at there he is again. Oh, there we go.
Chris Nelson right there.
Yeah, that was when Chris called me out. I got to assist him on a couple times on that makeup. That was a blast.
Yeah, I've met Chris Nelson. I met him at Phantasm. That's when I met Douglas Tate as well, and Christopher.
Oh yeah,
it was a lot of fun hanging out with those guys. Yeah. Christopher Nelson was really cool. Big dude. Yeah, you don't realize how big he is until you get in person. But yeah.
Oh, he's tall. I think at one point he was supposed to play the Hulk in that Hulk movie before the Ang Lee one.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, he was supposed to. He was going to be in the suit, the Hulk suit.
I could see it. I think he'd be great. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a big dude. He could easily be a Leatherface or a Jason or something. But what he does behind the scenes is incredible with Sean Clark. So. Yeah. They have their podcast. He won an Academy Award for Suicide Squad. I mean, much deserved. He's freaking incredible.
The real deal.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I remember seeing Suicide Squad in the theater, and I think I turned to the person next to me. I was like, I want to know who the poor bastard is that had to go and apply that makeup on the alligator man, because it looks like it just would have been a pain in the butt to maintain all day. And then I read the credits of like, oh, they had Chris do it because he'd rock it out. Of course he did rock it out, but I'm just like, that had to be a nightmare because of all the, like, it's just covering his whole body. So it's like the rubbing and being underwater, there's like a lot of things probably working against you. So he's fantastic.
So he beasted through it, and we'll go through some of these pictures you sent, so you can describe what's in the image and what you're doing and the project.
That's from The Wretched. Man, I think I was like 70-something pounds heavier when we worked on that movie.
You were a tad bigger then,
Yeah,
I was.
You lost a lot.
I look up there, I'm like, oh, there was two of me. But The Wretched was fun. That was one of the few actual sets that they built for it. They had this great set designer named Mars. She was great. She made this whole cave, and it was inside of like a salvage office somewhere.
Yeah, I love the look of it. I mean, it's definitely a really cool set for sure. I know that guy.
Yep. And there's Rob actually. He always had the watches, the big giant watches, the Rockstar watch.
Red Monkey designs those Red Monkey leather designs those watches right there. Yeah, those were great. That's I got to tell you that even though I got heat stroke in the Leatherface costume, which was just very heavy, this stuff was a pain in the butt because you're in the chair for 2.5 hours, if not a little bit longer, and then you got to get the eyeglasses in, which is once you get the contacts in, it's hi, sweetie.
You had Sean Kenny do those, right?
Come say hello.
Hey, Erik. Dee Dee.
Hi, how are you?
What's going on?
Look how handsome he looks right there. You went and got handsome on us.
I see that. Look at you. You look great.
Well, thank you.
I'm bringing him snacks from set.
Oh, from the set. Oh, thank you. My wife works on a TV show that's on Warner for Warner Brothers, and They don't have too much practice. They don't have too much makeup on it. But yeah, man, you should write a book. You've gotten your story is pretty amazing, and all the good people that you've gotten to work with. And like I said, not just horror. That just happens to be you're really good at it when it comes to that, and you love it. So I've always been blessed to be your friend, and so is my wife. And I'm always proud.
Likewise.
I'm always proud to see how you keep moving and grooving, and how you keep working your way up the ladder. And I think directing is definitely that's going to be your next calling. And you're still young enough, and
well, you get a call when it happens. So I mean, you're going to get a call.
Well, if not, I know how to find you. At least on the internet. You're still in? Are you in California? Or did you decide to take the? No, you're in California.
I am. I live in San Diego now, but I'm up in LA all the time because it's like if I go day check or whatever, I just go stay with Chris Gallaher, or I stay with John or any of my friends. That's the nice thing is like I can live down here and then go up and just day check or whatever I got to do. It's only a 2-hour drive.
Yeah, the nice, comfortable setting out there in San Diego, a little cooler, like right by the beach, and
pretty close to the beach.
Yeah. So what is coming up for Erik Porn? What do you got? What do you got cracking? What can we? What movies or TV shows can we see that are coming out that you've done some work on?
Well, with any luck, I mean that thing I did for K&B, that other Walking Dead spinoff, hopefully will be out. I think early 2024, from what I saw in the credits. That was the last thing I worked on, really, and then the strike hit. So that's been about it. I haven't actually worked on anything since the strike hit. So, I think all of us are kind of about 6 months behind. I'm just excited to get back to work whenever we're able to do it, whenever they start calling people.
What was he working on?
So
yeah, I was gonna say with the COVID and then the strike, it's been a rough few years for you guys behind the scenes and in front of the camera.
It's been very rough, yeah.
Fun.
And then coming back from COVID and going right to Austin, and the Austin heat, it was like summer in Austin, and we had to wear all the COVID restriction stuff.
Oh, and it's got to make it the worst. I mean, especially if you wear glasses. Like people that wore glasses, I felt so bad with the masks because you could tell they couldn't walk and they couldn't see because their glasses would constantly be fogging up. But yeah, I'm glad we're through it, or at least for now, through everything. It's nice to get back to normal. And I'm glad the SAG strike ended, and now you guys can get back to rolling in the film industry and doing what you guys
get back to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you looking forward? Is it again with the strike that if someone says, Erik, I need you in Bulgaria for 6 months, you're going?
Yeah.
Let's go. Bulgaria. Yep. Erik Porn is ready to go.
I'm ready to work again. After, we went on a nice vacation over the summer. It was like, oh, it's time to take a vacation. Okay. Drove across country, went back up to Michigan to see family, down to Florida, went through some of the parks. I love going on roller coasters. So, got to do some of that stuff. And then it was like, okay. And then the strike kept going. It was like, okay, well, time to be a little frugal and not maybe spend too much money. But, I'm hoping that the same thing that happened after COVID, which was like nobody worked for so long that there was just shows ready to go. So hopefully stuff will come around. I had a couple independent films send me scripts that they wanted broken down. So we'll see what happens with that. Those might be something to do for a little bit too. Sure.
Well, as of late, I've been getting a lot of independent film work, which I'm tickled pink about and glad to be working with some of these young directors and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But look at Erik, I can't give you more props than I have. You're an excellent artist and one of the good human beings in this business and in the world, and you are incredible talent. Hopefully, if folks that will believe in me and John when I say that you know what you're doing and you got the credits and the resume to back it, where can they find you if they wanted to get a hold of you for some work?
I mean, I'm on Instagram, so I'm on Instagram, and Facebook is more kind of just my family type stuff, but Instagram is just Erik Porn, makeup artist.
Yeah.
With the last name spelled just as bad as it is.
I was going to ask you about that, but I'm sure you've heard enough about that. I'm sure it wasn't always easy to grow up with that, but you don't forget it either. You don't forget that name, and you look up Erik with a K on IMDb. It's very easy to come up with the porn. You're the only one. So
Just
that's a good-
don't do a Google image search. I did that the one time. I was like, oh, I regret my choices for this one.
Oh, geez, the fans, when they come to look me up, what's going on here? They're going to run into the wrong thing, and I'm going to get blamed. It's not my
Make
fault.
sure your safe search is on if you do it.
Well, look, we appreciate you. I really appreciate from the bottom of my heart coming on. And anytime you got something cool coming up, or you want us, if there's anything we can ever promote for you and let the folks know what's going on, let us know, and we'll do it, buddy. But thank you
Excellent,
again,
guys. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Absolutely, Erik. Thank you guys in the chat. Thank you everybody for being here. With Summer being here, Summer Flynn from Days of the Dead, all the Days of the Dead.
That's
Our
right.
show will be coming up, so I will drop that link when it happens, and we'll be discussing the Midnighters. And until next time, I guess we'll see you later. Peace out, guys.
See you guys.
Oh, okay.